So hi, welcome. My name is Tristana Perkle. I'm the Executive Director of the School Garden Support Organization-Network, or the SGSO-Network. If you're just meeting us for the first time, we're a national peer-to-peer learning network for school garden professionals. We support folks at any level, from individual garden educators to those who lead statewide, regional, national school garden programs. So as a part of our mission, we seek to create platforms where you, our members, can share your expertise with one another. So our webinars are one way that we do that. So today we're talking all about virtual farm field trips, both how to attend them, but also potentially how to create your own for your school garden or farm. We're going to hear from Tiffany Torres, who is a member of the SGSO Network Governance Board, who's going to share her experience setting up farm field trips all across Florida. And then we'll also hear from Perma. We've got two presenters, Andrew and Mary, who will share about their virtual farm field trips, as well as tools and tips for behind the scenes. So if you go to the next slide, just a couple of housekeeping items here. We will be recording this webinar and will be shared via email in our recording library a couple of days after the webinar is closed on our website. I'm about to put a resource handout into the chat. So that'll include a link to the slides, as well as a number of different links and resources that each of our presenters are going to be sharing with you. This webinar is 75 minutes to allow us a whole hour of content, and then Q&A will be in the last 15 minutes. So as questions come up, please use that Q&A function, the Q&A portion of your Zoom screen to share your questions, and we'll be organizing those and asking them at the end. And then we would love your feedback. So I will put a link into the chat, and it'll also pop up when your webinar closes to let us know how this webinar was and any future topics you'd like us to dive into on a webinar. So if you go to the next slide, just wanted to highlight that our Growing School Garden Summit webinar series will be starting this summer. Some of you will be joining us next month in San Diego, and we're so excited to gather over 500 people in San Diego. But we will be continuing the learning with a webinar series highlighting presenters from the summit, and that'll be starting in June. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to our first presenter, Tiffany.
Thanks, Tristana. Hi, everyone. I'm Tiffany Torres. I'm a governance board member with the SGSO Network, and today I'm going to share a little bit with you about my experience working with Florida agriculture in the classroom as state school garden specialist for Florida, hosting virtual farm field trips from a live version. So you can go to the next slide. So to start, there are a couple different ways that you could do a virtual farm field trip. We have different types of virtual experiences. I'm going to be mostly talking about live streaming and being on the ground in person with a farmer. So this is where it requires a little more planning and staff, as videographers are on the ground at the farm. There might be some connectivity issues that you have to troubleshoot ahead of time, but it's completely customizable, and it's a really engaging and exciting way to host a virtual farm field trip. And then we have Perma here with us today. They're going to speak a little bit more about pre-recorded aspects of exciting virtual farm field trips. And of course, there's hybrid versions of doing this too, where you can do pre-recorded videos and then have a live farmer speaking over them in real time, answering questions from students and teachers throughout your audience. All right, next slide. So a little bit about our story. So in 2021, Florida Agriculture in the Classroom, which is a statewide nonprofit that provides agriculture education to teachers and students throughout Florida, contracted with Shiftology. And Shiftology is a science-based communication entity that provides tools to support folks who are working with communications across their mission and vision. And so we contracted with Shiftology, and we have them here today actually to answer any questions. Dan is here to answer questions at the end, so it's exciting. And we did 4 virtual farm field trips with Shiftology. So we went to an aquaponics and hydroponics farm up in the northern part of the state of Florida, a tropical fruit farm further south. And we also worked with the Seminole Tribe of Florida to learn a little bit more about cracker beef cattle and the rich history there. And we also toured the University of Florida Bee Research Lab. So here's some screenshots from each of these and they're all on YouTube. You can view them. We'll have the chance to look at a few of them during this presentation. And so they were live streamed to YouTube and also hosted on Zoom webinar. And as a part of these field trips, we reached about 536 registrants total. It represented 14,211 students. And of course, there's even more accounted for if we count the YouTube views as well. So as you can see, it's a pretty wide-reaching program for your school garden program. You can go to the next slide. And so there's a lot of different ways to do this, but I just wanted to give some background of the kind of tech that you might need if you were going to host your own virtual farm field trip or work with an outside entity like Shiftology. So the equipment that we used were basic phones with smartphones with high quality cameras, gimbals to hold the phones in place as you're walking around the farm, and then noise canceling headsets that are Bluetooth connectivity so that you can communicate with the farmer, with the person who's hosting the Zoom, and with each other on the ground in real time. We use Zoom webinar as opposed to Zoom meeting, and I'll share some reasons why that's beneficial. And then the really big benefit of working with Shiftology is that they have an approach to seamless production, which they can use software that allows them to put videos into the screen at an easy rate of viewing. So all of these, like I said, were live streamed to YouTube. So that's another benefit of doing that is that any students who are homeschooled or maybe they're doing remote virtual learning, they can easily tune in to YouTube as opposed to students who are in a classroom and might be viewing this on one big screen together. And then the benefits to using Zoom webinar is that it's view only, so it's a cleaner experience in terms of not having lots of cameras on. We can focus directly on the farmer at hand and what they're sharing. We have the Q&A and live chat feature like we're using here today, so we can keep track of questions as they come in and make sure all the questions are answered. Highlighting speakers and camera spotlighting with those features, of course, polling like you have in regular Zoom meetings and webinars, and all this together creates a pretty immersive view and immersive experience. We also used for registration of the field trips, we were able to do that directly through Zoom like you did today. And Zoom also provides an opportunity to do evaluation pre and post surveys. Next slide. So if you were going to do this on your own, here's just a couple of recommended equipment items. So those mobile gimbals that I referenced, this is the brand. Of course, there's many different brands out there, but these are the brands that we worked with and we had good luck with them. So your gimbals are going to run around $75 to $150 for that specific brand. Noise canceling headsets are about $175 each. There's many different varieties of those. And then you do need, as I said, phones with high quality camera and unlimited mobile data so that you can stream effortlessly on site at the farm. And it's very important to make sure that all of your devices are charged before the event and are set to do not disturb mode so that you don't have things popping up while you're hosting live. Next slide. So all of this together, as I said, provides a seamless instruction. Could you just pause for just a second? Thank you. And I wanted to highlight that it really creates an experience that's more like watching TV than being in a Zoom meeting. So that it's very engaging for the students. They're more excited to watch because it's more interactive. So some of these additional stylistic benefits to working with a company like Shiftology is that there is a countdown timer in the beginning, overlaid over top of whatever image you want to create and provide. There's music, so it's a welcoming atmosphere. There's high definition video quality for any B-roll that you take ahead of time because of the software that they're using. And then there's videos and photos that are directly interlaid into the experience over top of what the farmer is speaking about. So we could go ahead and press play and we'll watch a little bit of some of that video experience that I was just speaking about. And this is with the Seminole Tribe of Florida. So as you can see there's the countdown timer. We have our farmer in the
Well, a
field,
chiki
and they were
is
just asked a
basically,
question.
it's a
So they're
structure
answering
that
now.
was built out of we build them out of cypress poles. Is what we do. We go in here and we cut down the cypress trees. We skin the bark off of them. Then we bury the poles in the ground. Then we make a roof over top of it. And then we've used the palm fronds, which are called sable palm fronds, but we call them fans. And we'd cut them and then we'd nail them on top of it. And that's basically building a waterproof structure. And that's basically what we used to live in. And also, one of our people who are working with us today.
Yeah, so you can see he's out there in the field where the cattle are. And actually, this is a fun little snippet. The cattle, we were supposed to see them there live that day, but the night prior, actually, a Florida panther came and scared the herd away, trying to get some of the new calves that were just born. So we didn't have any cattle to actually show live that day, which is another good lesson about showing, engaging in virtual farm field trips that are live. You have to be ready with a contingency plan in case something happens. So our plan was to show more of the rich heritage of the Seminole Tribe of Florida. So we incorporated some of those videos that they provided to us ahead of time, detailing the chickee huts that they live in and have historically lived in. All right, next slide. Okay, and just to give you a better idea of the roles and capacity needed to host a virtual farm field trip experience. So we were a group of 3 full-time staff members at this statewide nonprofit. And you need to make sure you have enough people on the ground to implement this. So there were times when we did partner with other folks to help implement the virtual farm field trips in addition to Shiftology, but in some you need 1 to 2 videographers. So those folks are going to be on the ground with separate phones, walking around, providing different views, which we'll see later on in another video. 1 ground support person who is able to communicate with the farmer. They're hearing what's going on in the webinar. They're able to basically troubleshoot any technology issues on the ground. Then we have our farmer who's plugged in with the headset as well, and does not need a phone or any kind of video because they're being videoed. And then remote in office, 1 host or moderator for the Zoom to kind of welcome everyone and ground us in what we're doing here today. Usually someone from the organization that's hosting. A tech producer, so in this case, Shiftology was doing a lot of the behind the scenes tech for us. But someone who's just able to manage those like little Zoom things and make it a seamless production experience. And then a chat monitor is also an optional but rewarding role to have as well. There's chats that can come in on Zoom, and the kids love to fire different things and ask different questions. And then there's also a chat on YouTube as well if you want to answer questions that way. So yeah, do you have enough staff members and volunteers to coordinate the experience? Have you budgeted for travel costs associated with getting to the different sites? Is something else to consider? And do you have enough time in addition to all of your other projects that your SGSO might be engaged in order to host something like this and promote it successfully? And just some other notes that there's someone managing the technology for the headset is really important, making sure that those Bluetooth stay connected the entire time so everyone's communicating with each other. And then featured speaker needs their own headset attached to the phone in the gimbal. So there's a lot of like these little technical things that after the first farm field trip experience, we really got on board with it, but you learn by doing so. And we can go to the next slide. So virtual farm field trips are unscripted, they're fun, especially when they're live, but it takes a lot of planning. So some other site considerations, make sure to do a walkthrough ahead of time. There might be limited internet connectivity or mobile data in the site that you're visiting. And so you'll need to possibly take B-roll ahead of time to account for the places where you won't be able to show the virtual farm field trip experience live. There also might be some safety and sanitation precautions that you need to work through, depending on where you're going in the farm, like wiping your feet or whatever precautions are set in place there for food safety reasons. It might be too noisy, so these noise canceling headsets are very helpful in that regard. And then of course, weather, if you're going to be in an outdoor experience. So we can watch a couple seconds of this, the hydroponic virtual farm field trip. And you'll see here where the connectivity lags a little bit as we're walking in.
Soil. So we have aquaculture, hydroponics, and the marriage is aquaponics. So we're going to head into our fish barn so you can see our aquaculture operation. So our system at Traders Hill Farm is a gravity fed system. So we're going to go up these stairs, and this is the highest point in our system. This is where it all begins. So that's some very excited fish this morning. So at Traders Hill Farm, our fish, the fish become the fuel for our system. So our fish are tilapia. We choose tilapia for several reasons. The first reason is on a sustainability scale, they rate quite high.
And the other thing I just wanted to highlight here is that there's only one camera happening right now, and that's another creative thing that you could do depending on where you need to walk on site. If you're at a big farm, you could have one camera focused on one area, and then we could cut over to someone who's already located at another location, especially if you have two farmers or individuals representing the farm that you're at. So that dual view is really exciting, and also accounting for, you know, where you're going to be on the farm, so that you're not taking time just to walk from point A to point B. All right, next slide. And then planning ahead. So super important, the behind the scenes logistics. So creating a run of show is really, really important so that we know where we're going to be at each point in the experience. What we did is when we had registration up, we asked if there were any initial questions that students or teachers had that they wanted answered during the show, during the field trip. And so based on that, we could put some of those questions into areas where we'd be able to answer them live and point to specific things related to the questions that are being asked. So you can see from the screenshot of the run of show that we created, there's, you know, camera A, camera B, where they're going to be, whether there's going to be B-roll up at a certain time that we're at a certain location, what topics we're covering, and then any questions that were asked. So this was really helpful planning tool for our team to just make sure that there was a seamless experience for the virtual farm field trip. And you can see the above one, that's something that Shiftology provided to us as well with their support through the contract. So benefits to doing registration as well. You can figure out the unique views as well as school and grade level. Like I said, questions for the farmer, pre-post survey questions, and then anything related to your mission and vision if you want to get deeper into that. Next slide. Okay, and then finally, we have a lot of opportunities for education connections through virtual farm field trips. So we experimented with a couple different versions of each of these. We had in-classroom activities, so you could think about mailing, you know, resources, worksheets, fact sheets, handouts ahead of time to registrants. You could also think about mailing materials. So there's a microgreen farm here in Tallahassee, for example, that does virtual farm field trips, and they mail out microgreen grow kits, which you can see in the lower right-hand corner of the screen there, to the students. So after they see the farm, they then create their own little mini farm right there at their desk using those materials. You could also think about doing a scavenger hunt. So students have to look for certain things during the webinar or during the farm field trip. Books are an awesome complementary educational resource. So this is the Ag Literacy Day book, The Cattle Tale, for that year. And we were able to mail those out to any schools who wanted them so that it could be read alongside the field trip, focusing on cattle with the Seminole Tribe of Florida. And then also a nutrition education connection. So thinking about doing virtual tasting. If you're at a fruit farm, for example, like we were at Erickson Farm, we invited students to teachers to bring in tropical fruit to sample that day. alongside the farmer, so that we could have that enriched experience. And you can go ahead and play a couple clips from the Erickson farm tour now.
Although I believe you can trim them to try to reduce that.
And this is a good
period
example of
between,
that
but
dual
just in their
camera
own
view that I was
natural
talking about.
cycle. That's how long they just continue to produce new fruit. They are, okay.
Now we're going over to the tasting table.
I don't know how many there are worldwide. We have mostly here 2 Thai varieties. They have cute names. We've got a Phueng Tung and a Shrikumbangam, and they look the same. These are Phueng Tungs. And then this is actually the kind you're probably more likely to see in the grocery store. This is a Kerry. It looks a lot like an Arkin as well. In my opinion, these are a little bit sweeter. They will be, these you really want to watch and make sure they get a nice orange to them to make sure that they're sweet. These will get a darker
go ahead and wrap
yellow,
that up.
but they will be.
So lots of exciting views there of the star fruit, the carambola, and we can go ahead to the next slide. And so lastly, I just wanted to point out that partnerships are so important. Like I said, we contracted with Shiftology, who helped us host these 4 virtual farm field trips, and it was an amazing experience. They're super helpful and helped with the seamless production and the planning and all of it on the back end. So you'll be provided with the 1-pager with their services there. Virtualfarmfieldtrips.com is their website. And we have Dan here to answer any questions about their services, but there's plenty of other entities out there who are helping school garden support organizations like yourself implement virtual farm field trips, and Edge Perma is one of them. So I'm going to pass it over to them and they can share more about what they offer. Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing and for including us in that. Yeah, it's fun that we align in so many ways on what we love to do. So we'll just launch right into introducing us. My name is Mary Marshall, and this is Andrew Tuttle, and we are just 2 best friends that are in business together and have interned on farms together as well, and went to school at Edmonds College in their landscape design program. And so it was in 2018 that we started our landscape design business and do ecological farm and landscape design. And it was within that we started Edge Perma, doing the virtual tours of farms. Andrew will speak more on that journey. But yeah, so those are our 2 main businesses at the moment. And we also are co-land stewards for Crabtree Farm and have been there for a couple of years in Arlington, Washington. And that's a 20-acre farm. If you have more questions, feel free to ask on that. And so, yeah, over the last few years with the Edge Perma project and doing the virtual farm tours, we have been invited to speak at quite a few different webinars and conferences, some of those being with Drone Deploy for their speaker series in regenerative ag. That's a drone software that we use, as well as the Global Earth Repair Summit and for the PINA Masterclass as well. And we have done quite a few collaborations with Edmonds College. And Andrew has actually taught some courses there, and I'll hand it over to him to speak on his journey of what that's looked like.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. And thanks to Tristana and Tiffany. This has been awesome so far. We're super excited to be here and excited to share our passion with you all. As Mary mentioned, I was teaching at Edmonds College. I was teaching permaculture design there in 2020. And this was my first ever solo class. I had been, studying and researching and teaching in the field for about the past decade. But I was super excited to have my first class ever that was just mine, and I got to shape it the way I wanted to. And then the pandemic hit, and that totally derailed all of my plans. I had all of these farm tours lined up that I was just thrilled about and just couldn't be more excited. And then we had to just shift. We had to pivot. Everything went to online learning. And so that is where this idea came from, to just make online learning stronger. And so we just dove in. 3 years ago, we started researching how we can use new technology to make online education stronger and create that in-person farm learning experience in a virtual learning space. So this is a bit about our formula, and you can go ahead and play that. Great. So yeah, that was a little bit about this formula that we've come up with. So after years of researching this technology, we have come up with this formula that we've designed specifically for accessibility and for trying to reach students of all different learning styles. So why virtual field trips? This, again, for us, this was a response to the pandemic. This was a response to a huge need that we saw. When I had to cancel all of these trips, I just was devastated, and I wanted to find a solution, and that is what sparked our research in this space. So again, in a future where there's going to be more online learning, how can we use technology to bridge that gap and get us on sites to learn from farmers in those locations? And how can we also travel the world? How can we learn about farms that are in different parts of the world just through a computer screen? Those are parts of the mission here for us. And during that time, we just also realized, from a teacher's perspective, I just also noticed that there was just a big piece. It wasn't just the virtual tour piece, but it was like teachers just need way more case studies to pull from. And so aside from, creating these virtual tours, we're just creating case studies showing regenerative farms, what they look like when they're established, and how we can learn to replicate those systems and inspire students along the way. So this is an accessibility project for us, not only just physical accessibility. We have all been to gardens and farms that you can't access all of the space. So we want to give folks the equal access to all areas of farms, and we can do that through some of the tools that we use to document sites. Again, we're trying to reach students of all different learning styles. And for me, when I was growing up, I really struggled to learn from books. I wasn't the best reader. There was so many ways in which school just was tough for me. I actually, barely even graduated high school. I just was struggling in so many ways. And for me personally, this is like the way a big piece of this mission is to create an experience, because that's the way that I learn, is through getting out there in spaces, feeling like you're really there, hearing people talk about farm systems and videos, and really like immersing in a space and getting to control that experience yourself. And so you'll see when we dive into the tours that this is a completely self-guided, student-driven system that we've developed. We really want to empower those students to feel like they can get out there and go on an adventure around a farm.
Yeah, and as they're navigating through the tours, there's videos of the farmer doing their farm walk, as well as pictures and text. So it really taps into that student-specific learning style and just becomes a well-rounded experience.
And on top of it, we're trying this cost-effective for schools. We know how difficult it can be on two farms. We're making it so that the schools can see farms all over the world. We want it so that students that are in urban get into rural farms that are in thousands of miles away and have that experience. Languages. Right now, we just have the option for English, but we're going to be exploring adding additional languages in the years to come. So there's so many challenges associated with going to a farm. And obviously, we all love to travel and visit farms and gardens and learn, but it's just realistically, it's oftentimes just not doable. Farmers are the busiest people we know. There's limited time that they have to offer tours. There's the geographical location issue that we already hit on, liability, and again, as an educator, I want to show students the whole farm, and I want to show them the design piece and how interconnected systems work together and function together. And in order to do that effectively for me, I want to have these aerial views that we'll show a little bit more of in just a minute. But we really feel like this multiple layered approach to documenting farms and showing successful farm systems. We feel like this formula is really effective for helping students understand these very complex systems. One of the big issues we're now seeing as teachers today is all sorts of weather issues. You know, here in the Pacific Northwest, we now have a regular smoke season. At the end of summer, it's super dry. We've been through a massive drought, and we have wildfires. And I was just in a webinar a couple months ago where we were all talking about how can we address this when there's all of these like farm education programs happening in the summer, camps and things like that, and teachers are being forced to cancel entire days because they can't be out in the classroom that's outside. And so we're trying to create content that replicates, again, that in-person learning experience that's outside in a virtual learning space. So we can bring this content indoors, and we can also highlight farm tours in the middle of winter when there's snow all around. We can go see what a farm looks like in the middle of summer. So we're going to dive into our formula now, and our tours all start with a map. So we have here Inspiration Farm in Bellingham, Washington. This is one of the very best permaculture farms to learn from, in my opinion, because you just get so much here. They're really doing just a little bit of everything that you can possibly do on one site. It's kind of like Disneyland for somebody that's into plants. At least that's how I look at it. You're just like walking around finding things you've never heard of or never seen before around every corner. And so you can see how effective these maps are for helping you understand the layout of the site. That's what we want to start with, is really giving the students an understanding of how this site is laid out. And you can see the topography data over there on the left side of the screen. These are maps that we made with consumer grade drones, and we created some really good, really accurate topography maps with really a basic understanding of how to fly a drone. Mary and I had zero experience in any of this just a few years ago. And what you're seeing is two folks that had a passion for learning new things. And we literally everything you're seeing in this presentation today, we had zero experience with.
Mm-hmm. Our passion is based in agriculture, and that grew with interning on farms. And so that's why we wanted to find a way to connect with farmers in the virtual space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as you can see here, this map articulates the way the water moves through the site. And there's more detailed maps throughout the tour. We just wanted to give you a quick overview of the site, and we'll dive into more of that here. So after you review the map, we're going to see a 360-degree drone video of the farm. And so this is just a couple minutes overview of the site. And as you can see here, this camera is a 360-degree camera hanging off the bottom of a drone that the student is in full control of. That cursor moving around, this is a screen recording that Mary took, and she's moving the camera angle. So you get to really feel like you get to see what you want to see on the farm. And this is just a really fun tool that most people have never seen before, that just gets, it can get a student just super excited about what it is that's happening here, and start to want to engage more with this content. And we also get to get a really interesting look at these highly complex farm systems. Here you can see the swale systems that overflow to the pond, which then overflows to another swale, and the food forest, guild polyculture plantings on the downhill side of those swales. And this just gives you like a look at that from above, and then we dive into get a closer look on the next slide.
Yeah, and it's very user friendly because this is a YouTube video, and I just press play and use my cursor to scan around.
So this is on the left. This is what we're used to seeing for farm 3D models. This is, as good as it used to get. What we can do now is just far more advanced, and something that we're really excited about using as a teaching tool. So this is a 3D model that we made of Cloud Mountain Farm Center near Bellingham, Washington. This is a farm that I actually worked at back in 2018, and it's this incredible education center. It's a diversified organic production farm with a plant nursery. And this 3D model, we love to show folks that this was made by somebody with basically zero drone experience. This was my very first flight ever. This was something that we created in 10 minutes of flying. So we used a platform called Drone Deploy, and we used a drone, Mavic 2 Pro, which we'll talk more about these tools in a minute. But I just really wanted to highlight that this is absolutely possible for anyone to do this. All you have to do to create a 3D model of the site is pull up the app, connect your drone, turn on all of the connectors and all of that, and you hit the go button for this grid that you already laid out over this site. And once you hit that go button, the drone's going to fly itself around the farm, and it's going to take hundreds of photos. And when you get home, you just take those photos and you put them into the processing software, and it's going to give you a 3D model. This is all in Sketchfab, but we're going to talk more about the various software options here in just a minute. But that's one that we love to share. We also note that you can't see the trees here because it's winter, so they're not leafed out yet. So there's pros and cons to documenting sites in winter versus summer, and we'll see more of that at Beacon Food Forest in a minute. So within these 3D models that we created, we're back at Inspiration Farm here, by the way. Within these 3D models, we really love this as a teaching tool because you get to see more of the landform. You get to see how this land is shaped, and you see how the ponds are laid out, and the swales are laid out, and the food forest is laid out. All of that just, from this 3D model perspective, you get a far more clear understanding of how this platform, which we create a software called Cross Cloud, you can actually add these 360-degree panoramas of the site, which all of these images are taken on a $450 camera. So about feet, but we've tried a couple different methods. We use a tripod so that you on a bigger site so that you can farm from this height, or we'll see in Beacon Food for that tour that we've taken all of those images from a helmet cam. And within these tours, you can actually add just about anything you want. So we run around the farm and we take photos, and we make these really clear images of, you saw the cow there. But we also add video of the farmer. So here we're going to see Brian, who is one of the stewards at Inspiration Farm. Him and Alexandra have spent the last couple of decades establishing this incredible site, and they love to share it with the world. So this is a tour that we were actually on in person, and we recorded the whole thing. There was about 30 people there. So within the tour that you're on here, as the student or yourself, you're guiding yourself along through this tour, and then you click on video throughout and photos. But within that space, these recordings of the tour, there's actually a bunch of people asking questions throughout the space. So it does feel somewhat interactive in that sense. But we just love Cross-Cloud for so many reasons. Again, it's available in so many different languages, which we're excited to explore. Here you can see installation photos of this this pond here. This was actually freshly expanded. You can see there's a mulch layer here, but we documented this right after they had dug this out to expand for more water catchment here on this farm.
Yeah, but it's been really great to add pictures that Brian, the farmer, has so that you could see of the space and where it all started, or as he continues to expand his water systems and his earthworks, to be able to see his different stages as he's installed those.
Yeah, and that it really helps to understand how you can actually replicate this. When you see all of these images and you see the before and after pictures, it gives you a better understanding of how you can replicate that system on a site that you're working on. So you can go ahead.
Yeah, we can probably move to the next slide here. Oops. There we go.
So what we've developed here for this site is an entire curriculum package. There is over 2 hours of content here that is a go at your own pace, student-led curriculum we have here. We're also working to align this with standards. We're in Washington State, so we've been working with OSPI here to create a curriculum that is aligned with what we're teaching in schools. We currently have a curriculum available for Inspiration Farm for middle school and high school level. However, our goal for this project is to have elementary level content available in the next year or so. With our current formula for how these partnerships work with our farm partners is everything we sell, it's a 50-50 split with that farmer. This is a way to honor them for all of the time that they gave us in developing this as a collaborator. And it's a way to just generate income for these farmers. That's a big part of our mission, is we want to honor them for all of the amazing work they're doing and generate income for them so that they can continue to develop more innovative systems. This site, Inspiration Farm, this is a research site. So if we can generate income for them, that gives them more freedom to focus on farm and innovating and learning new things to share with us. And our goal here is to come back over and over again and document the site as it evolves. Most of what you're seeing here was taken in 2021, 2022, but we want to go back year after year and show the growth of the food forest systems and how everything's evolving over time. But with these curriculum packages, we can also offer live Zoom sessions with Farmer Brian. He's an incredibly motivating, inspiring speaker that has decades of experience. He's one of the experts in our region on permaculture. And anytime we get a chance to do a session with him, it's always a lot of fun. So that's something we can offer any of your schools that might be interested. We really hope that you use some of the free content that we have out there. The 3D model that we just looked at earlier of Cloud Mountain Farm Center, this is actually layered with video as well. All of these annotations that you see on the screen here have videos linked to YouTube clips that we actually didn't even do. We just found a really cool interview with one of my friends and mentors, Cheryl Thornton, who co-created Cloud Mountain Farm Center. But that's one of the great things about these tours, is if somebody's taken video of it, we can easily link that into any of these different platforms that we use for virtual tours. Additionally, the Beacon Food Forest virtual tour is completely free, and that is on our website. Either of these different tours you could use in your classroom tomorrow, and we'd love it if you did. So now we're going to get into tools that we use. This is something that we're just having so much fun diving in, researching all of this stuff so that we can share it with you and hopefully share with you some of the information that can inspire you to go create content like what we're doing. Because again, anyone can do this. We just, we had a passion, and we just learned a lot from YouTube, and we learned a lot from just trying, getting out there, messing around with 360 cams and drones. Here you can see, were you gonna say something?
Oh, and if you want to nerd out on this with us more so on how we put these components together, feel free to contact us, because we love to share about the tech that we've learned over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll second that. Like, if you just want to talk with us about drones or anything, we will pick up a phone call and we will walk you through any of this. We love to share. And we'd love to see other educators doing things like what we're doing. So we think that this sort of content has the power to really shape the future of education. We've used drones like the DJI Mavic Mini. That was my very first drone. Be careful, you'll get addicted just like I did. This is actually the DJI Mavic Mini we got for a couple $100 at Costco. And it's an amazing product that you can do a lot of the things that we've done with that. Since then, we've upgraded to the Skydio 2 Plus and the Mavic 2 Pro. Those are both, around $1,000 base model, a little bit more if you get the battery upgrades and all of that. But these are the ones that we've used to make the 3D models that you just saw, and all of the drone video that we do now are on both of these drones. The Skydio 2 is amazing for new drone pilots because you can't really crash them. I mean, the one thing you have to be careful about is power lines, but everything else, it's obstacle avoidance software that's built in will not let you hit really anything. You can also see the 360 cam on this snowboarder's helmet here. This is exactly the setup we use for documenting sites. We also have used the DJI Osmo Pocket. Both the Insta360 One X2 and the Osmo Pocket are very affordable cameras that give you really high quality content. We love those. This is some of the software that we've used. We started with iMovie, which is free on Mac. Since then, we've upgraded to Final Cut, but all the video you see within our content was self-taught, and anyone can learn how to do this. So as far as mapping software goes, Maps Made Easy is the most affordable. It's one that I haven't used yet. I have used Pix4D and Drone Deploy. Those are both very user-friendly. And the thing that I love about Drone Deploy and Pix4D is that they both offer nonprofit discounts and will support educators and students. Especially Pix4D, they have a great deal for students and educators that want to get into drone mapping. We use Sketchfab, 3D Vista, and CrossCloud for all of our tours. Those have pros and cons to all of them, and various options for what you can and cannot do with those. CrossCloud is incredibly easy to use and something that we really, really love. It's a very new product. Actually, a lot of what you saw today, this technology didn't exist when we first started researching on this project. Since in the past couple of years, CrossCloud and 3D Vista have allowed for 3D models and 360 cam integration, which we think is just a really powerful learning tool. So we hope that you check out these tools. And again, reach out to us if you want to learn more about these. We also have a couple other lectures that we go more in depth on how to use, so practice as well. So please reach out, contact us, forward you on the Inspiration Farm tour. We are actively looking for all kinds of partnerships. We have partnered with various universities on research grants, but we're looking for other options here so that we can create more open source content. And if your organization or your farm or your school is looking for collaborators in any capacity, please reach out. We'd love to explore those opportunities with you. And you can reach us. There's my email right there. You can sign up for an email newsletter for updates on all sorts of things that we're doing with either our farm or our project or our design business. We like to share just all of the things that we're learning all the time. And you can follow us on social media as well. So we were going to jump into the Beacon Food Forest tour, but I think instead we're going to move into a Q&A session here in just a minute. But I will highly recommend that you go check out the Beacon Food Forest tour on your own. Again, it's free on our website right now. And I know that we're going to follow up with an email link to all of the attendees. So
yeah, this is more of a sample tour. We don't have in-depth video on there doing a farm walk, but we've included videos that other people have shared on YouTube. And there's tons of information out there on Beacon Food Forest that we continue to include into our tours. But I recommend you go check that out.
Mary and Andrew, we actually have a little bit of time if you guys do want to share, and that can give folks some time to add any additional questions they have into the Q&A. That's what we'll be doing next.
We'll launch into it.
Yeah, we're excited to get to share this a little bit. I will note that you do need a pretty robust computer system to be able to utilize this content. However, the thing that we really love about CrossCloud is you'll see it's taken a minute to load here. But the thing that's amazing about Crosscut is it seamlessly transitions to tablets and smartphones. So depending on your computer, you could have a little bit of slow lag time, but any modern smartphone runs this really quick. And that's why we actually use Crosscut, is because it's so easy to transition from phone to tablet to computer. You could also go full screen if you would like to. Okay, that's fine. So this is Beacon Food Forest in Seattle, Washington. This site is one of the most inspiring permaculture projects I have personally witnessed. The whole mission of this project is growing food for the people on public land. And so most of this site is open harvest. This entire section down on the right-hand corner of the screen is a public food forest that literally anyone can walk through and harvest from. It's a space that if you go spend time here, you just feel the energy, you feel the community building pieces. It's just all of this amazing stuff comes together on this site, from building relationships and making people feel like they have a space to spend time, to supporting wildlife. This is an ecological oasis in a space where there used to be nothing. This entire hillside was just a monoculture of grass. It wasn't supporting really anyone. I mean, other than maybe like sledding down the hill in the middle of winter, but there's still sledding space. Now we have this space that is, again, it's an ecosystem that's forming here. This is part of the food forest where these are actually private gardens here. There's a City of Seattle project called the Pea Patch or Picardo Patch, and so a couple of the spaces throughout the garden are individually leased and run, but the vast majority of the food forest is this open harvest model. And it's a space where they have educational programs regularly. They have volunteer work parties every week almost, community potlucks and gatherings where folks come together and they learn and they plant and they grow. And one of the other like really cool sort of benefits to this space is when we get to the food forest, which we'll see in just a minute, there's like the ecosystem functions that weren't there. There's shade. There's this is a space that gets really hot in the summer, but now like you've got this cool space to go spend time and connect with nature in ways that this area didn't have before. And now it's this just like really just robust and incredible space that is all volunteer designed and built. Like this entire project is just established with volunteers that are just passionate about creating a project that feeds people and provides for wildlife and does all of the things that we've mentioned. So we're now in the main sort of food forest space here.
I'm not sure if we're supposed to be seeing a video, but it's not showing on our on the screen.
Oh, okay. You can't see the food forest right now?
We can just see the slide that it was on.
Oh. Okay.
Could be the fish.
That was probably confusing then for everybody.
Sorry, y'all. Just thought it was maybe loading.
Yeah, it was loaded on our end, but I guess we will just leave it at that, and we'll, I think, transition to the Q&A session since we're having an issue with that. Unless you want to try sharing this. How is that? Is that showing up for you?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. That was probably maybe a little bit disorienting, hearing us describe something you couldn't see. And now we're back. So again, this is Beacon Food Forest. We highly recommend, either visiting this space in person if you're ever in the Seattle area, or if you want to check this out, again, it's on our website and you can go view that right away. But this is the entrance to Beacon Food Forest. It is a space that I have spent a lot of time and have just loved getting to experience. This is the main entryway and gathering space. Here are some of those individual plots that I mentioned just a minute ago. And like a tool shed. Maybe Mary, could you go down to the food forest space and we'll take a look at that real quick. There's various levels of establishment throughout the site. We're going to go look at the most established part of the food forest, which, as you can see in this 3D model, you can't actually see anything leafed out. But then we captured these 360 images in summer. So we did the 3D model in winter and these images in summer, which is a way to show, how things change throughout the season. Here we've got a bunch of established nut trees and fruit trees with understory plantings of fruit shrubs and a massive amount of lupin here, which is a great Northwest native and nitrogen fixer that pollinators love, and it does a great job of holding space and is a great companion plant for a lot of these food producing and medicinal plants that you see throughout the food forest. Let's go ahead and move over to the ADA garden. I'd love to show that while we've got everyone here.
Yeah.
So this space was terraced, and one of the awesome things about Beacon Food Forest is the accessibility. This whole garden here was designed for wheelchair access. They roll right into this space where folks can garden in these raised beds. But this whole area was really designed for accessibility, being able to navigate the site and get in here and get to garden on this land. It's one of these projects where there's just so much to learn here. One of the things that I really love about Beacon Food Forest too is there's this huge focus on like cultural diversity within the garden. So Beacon Hill is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in Seattle. And one of the things that the founders of Beacon Food Forest wanted to do was make people feel seen and make people feel like they're home. And so here at Beacon Food Forest, they plant basically anything you could possibly grow in the Pacific Northwest. They're growing it here. And one of the reasons for that is to integrate culturally significant foods for people from all over the world. So that when they're walking around the food forest, they get to see something that makes them feel like they're at home. And they get to have access to these foods that maybe aren't available in the market, or actually, in fact, I know most of them or many of them are not available at all. So this is a space where there's just so many cool things happening here, and we'd like to now, transition, I think, to the Q&A session.
Great, thank you so much. So appreciate you sharing all that amazing information, Mary and Andrew and Tiffany. We've got some questions, and please feel free to add questions as they come in for you into the Q&A section. So let's see, we've got a couple. Do you know if companies rent out drones, or do you have to purchase them?
I don't know any companies that rent out drones. I would say that would be pretty challenging because, well, one thing I didn't mention was that you need to have an FFA pilot's license to fly a drone for anything commercial. However, that process for getting that license is fairly straightforward. There's a lot of really great content on YouTube. That's how I passed my test, was just going and doing those programs. But yeah, I don't know of any that rent out drones because it's something that would be a little bit challenging without the proper credentials and all of that.
Okay, great. That makes sense. Cool. Thanks for sharing. I did just want to mention some of the questions that have come through the chat in case they're relevant to others. We had a question about the microgreen kits and if they're available to educators in any state. This was from Tiffany's presentation, and she shared that yes, they Legacy Greens offers virtual field trips nationwide, and they can mail the grow kits out to any interested school garden support organizations or educators. And we can put that link again into the chat. We also had a question about how do you overlay images and videos or B-roll footage into a live stream Zoom webinar. That was also from Tiffany's presentation, and she shared that this was a feature that Shiftology, the company that they worked with, was able to offer using their specific software, and that they found it really helpful. I did just put a link to the kind of one pager about Shiftology into the chat if you'd like to learn more about them. Okay, great. We've got some other questions coming through. The curriculum packages that you are currently speaking about, have you used or modified these packages to use with preschool age children? And if you have, how successful has it been? I'm assuming this is for Perma.
Yeah, so everything you're seeing today is brand new. We actually just had our very first ever virtual tour in any class just last month. It was actually a classroom in Miami, which was really cool to bring the students to the Pacific Northwest for a session. But we have not done any trials with elementary level learners yet. That is just something that's in the works.
Yeah, we haven't, but we would love to speak with somebody if they do have a class that they wanted to work with. And we could do kind of similar to what we did today and walk through it with them and make it more of an interactive piece than using the curriculum package that we have.
Right. There's also the option for the teacher to lead the tour.
Yep.
As Mary was getting to.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. We have a question about, could you please expand on the hardware needs that Andrew mentioned with a robust system?
Yeah, so basically what we've seen is that with CrossCloud, just about any device can load the content. There can be just varying levels of speed. So if you have a slightly older computer, there might be a little bit of a load time, but we haven't seen any issues with a device not being able to run the content. So that's basically what I was getting at, was there's a difference in speed for loading from the transition from the panorama to the next one. You might have a little bit of a load time.
Awesome, thank you. We also got a question in the chat from one of our participants that might be relevant for everybody to help answer. So since we're kind of talking about farms that include a lot of regenerative agriculture and permaculture, Zachary was wondering if anyone has found ways to integrate permaculture design within elementary and middle school systems, and if so, to what extent, and how have you tied that into outdoor or garden classrooms? So if any of our panelists have anything to say on that, otherwise I'm sure perhaps some folks who are on our webinar as participants have some experience incorporating permaculture elements into their gardens and can share in the chat. It's always fun when you all can share with each other. Great, we just got another question here. Are there any particular YouTube videos you recommend for preparing to get a license to fly a drone?
Yeah, I mean, if you just simply type in the search bar FFA drone pilot's license, there will be dozens of options. I would just go for one of the ones that has the most views. I watched quite a few of them, and again, I passed my first try, and it was really helpful to learn, because actually a lot of the flying we've done has been pretty dangerous. Beacon Food Forest is right next to an airport. So when I was flying, documenting that site, my drone was literally 100 to 150 feet below aircraft that were taking off, and that can be a very dangerous situation. So it's going through the learning process for that license was super helpful and actually pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say YouTube University is where it's at, because I know there's courses out there, but yeah, just do a deep dive there, and that's majority of what we've learned in this sphere has been through there.
Yeah, and I'll also add that it's not necessary to get a pilot's license if you're not doing anything for sale. If you're creating free content, you don't need to get a license. It is helpful to learn the laws, but it's not something you have to do.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions for our panelists? Well, I think with that, we'll go ahead and close out our webinar. Just want to extend a very big thank you to Tiffany and Mary and Andrew for sharing your experiences and your passion all about this topic. It's super informative and definitely something that we haven't featured before. So thank you so much. If you could go to the next slide, please, and I'm going to put into the chat the link to our survey. Would love to know what you thought about this webinar and what you'd like to learn at future webinars. So here's the link into the chat, and it'll also pop up when the webinar closes. If you go to the next slide, feel free to reach out to me or the SGSO network. Really appreciate you joining and sharing your experiences as well and your questions. This has been a really great and informative webinar. So with that, we'll close it out for today and hope to see you all on the next one. Have a good rest of your day.